Good evening. Are we ready to go here? Okay, let's call this meeting of the County Board to order. It is Thursday, March 18th, 2010. The time is 7:03. The clerk call the roll call, please.
Mosier. Here. Nudo. Here. O'Connor. Here. Richards. Here. Rosales.
Here.
Sapp. Here. Schrader. Here. Smucker. Here. Wysocki.
Here.
Ammons. Anderson.
Here.
Beckett. Here. Benzel.
Here.
Betts.
Here.
Carter. Coert. Denitz.
Here.
Gladney.
Present.
James.
Here.
Jay.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Knott.
Here.
Kurtz.
Here.
Langenheim. McGinty.
Here.
Michaels.
Here.
Weibel.
Here, I'll point out that Mr. Langenheim is here. He may have stepped out of the room. And Mr. Carter is ill. We have a quorum. The prayer tonight is by Ralph Waldo Emerson, called the Spring Prayer. For flowers that bloom about our feet, for tender grass, so fresh, so sweet, for song of bird and hum of bee, for all things fair we hear or see. Father in heaven, we thank thee. For blue of stream and blue of sky, for pleasant shade of branches high, for fragrant air and cooling breeze, for beauty of the blooming trees. Father in heaven, we thank thee. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk read the notice of the meeting, please.
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on March 18, 2010, 7 o'clock p.m. in the Lyle Shields Meeting Room, Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payment of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until completion of said business.
Moved by Ms. Wysocki.
Second.
Second by Mr. James. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Seek approval of the agenda and the addendum.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Langenheim, second by Mr. Kurtz. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. The date and time of our next regular meetings are the two committee of the whole meetings. There's one on Tuesday, April 6th at 6 p.m. and one on Tuesday, April 13th at 6 p.m. The regular county board meeting will be on Thursday, April 22nd at 7 p.m. All of them in this room. The consent agenda. Are there any items that you wish to have pulled from the consent agenda? Mr. Nudo.
Yes. I move we remove from consent agenda item, let me see here. 10? Excuse me, I'm sorry. C1.
Item C1 under policy.
No, I'm sorry, it's not C1.
Not C1.
No. Yes, it is. Yes, it is?
Somebody got glasses for Mr.
C1,
Nudo?
yes, C1. C1, thank you.
It's not on consent to begin with.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
C1? You have to look in the yellow.
Move to consent.
Thank you, Mr. McGinty. Is there a second? Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Beckett. Roll call.
Mosier. Nudo.
Yes.
O'Connor. Richards.
Yes.
Rosales.
Yes.
Sapp.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Smucker.
Yes.
Wysocki.
Yes.
Anderson.
This is on the whole consensus, is that right?
Beckett.
Consent.
Yes.
Yes.
Benzel. Betts.
Yes.
Coert. Denitz. Gladney.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Knott.
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Langenheim.
Yes.
McGinty,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
and Weibel.
Yes, motion carries. Public participation. Okay, we have a thick stack tonight, so I'm going to invoke the 5-minute rule. It means 5 minutes maximum, no warnings. Also, we have to have them all done within the hour. So if you could keep your notes, or rather your speeches, clear and quick, everybody will be happy. First person up is Marilyn Lindholm.
No, it's not on.
Get on? Hello? Okay. Marilyn Lindholm, I'm from Champaign, and I had a couple quick opinions that I wanted to state for everybody. And the first one is, I feel, I don't know what's up, there's no agenda out here, and I didn't copy one from the website, but I feel strongly that the chairmanship of the board should be a decision made by the board members. And I say that because I think they are the ones most affected by the board chairman. And I also, they would know what qualities they want in a board chairman. From the back pew, okay, I like to see a board chairman who is prepared and informed and fair and moves the meeting. Those would be my qualifications. But, you know, I'm back there. Okay, I want to say that I really strongly support, I'm wowed out by what I think is the Wysocki proposal on redistricting. Just knocks me out. The redistricting and the committee that's involved in that, okay. I wanted to say, too, quickly that just I heard, I think it was Marcy Dodds speaking at the City Council, and she made a few extra points about the Olympian extension, and they were new points that I hadn't heard before. One was that talked about the access roads and who's going to maintain those. And she brought up the idea that we measure economic development and growth in terms of concrete. And I wonder why that's necessary. And I also wanted to say one thing about the Olympic thing. The thing is that some of the justification that's given for the Olympic extension is how long it's been around. 20, 30 years. And I think when something has been around that long, and it's been in production that long, then and that carries a kind of a tar pit legitimacy and a justification simply because it's been there, it's been around, it's been worked on for so long. And that doesn't have to be. You can still say, hey, what was thought about 20 years ago is not applicable now, and we do not have to do it. And just those years accumulated do not make it justified. Okay, I want to tell you that I really brag on the board. Can I see everybody? I really brag about the board, very sincerely, and I'm not kissing up here. I don't have anything to kiss up for. And I'm particularly amazed most recently about the board's willingness to change and change structure and change policy. It knocks me out. I work for the university, and the university is in change, and they are in pain. And so you are all the more amazing to me. Okay. In the spirit of change, I have several questions. All right. I have difficulty figuring out the agenda page itself. These are procedural kinds of things. I have difficulty figuring out the agenda page. I don't know what the consent agenda is. I don't know what those pages refer to. And what I'm missing a lot is a descriptive statement about resolutions that need to be discussed, that will be discussed. I do appreciate on the agenda that for every financial one, there's a reason given. That's nice. I mean, that's really a good step. But I don't see anything like that for other resolutions. I'm not talking about appointment resolutions. I'm talking about resolutions that will be discussed. And I have to say that I have wrestled, and that's the word, I have wrestled with the website. I have put stuff in the Google box, and I can't seem to find a text for the resolutions that will be discussed. And I think if you do not have a summary statement of the resolution on the agenda before the meeting and on the website, then your public participation is going to be about mothers-in-law and lost dogs and any public participation is going to be tends to be responsive and reactive and after the fact and post-mortem. And I think when you have post-mortem participation, then it can be easily discounted. The thing is over, so it can be easily not considered. So I'm suggesting that first thing, you have a statement of resolution, the content of resolution on the agenda, both on the paper one that you can pick up and on the website, that carries links to the actual text for the resolutions, which I can't find. I'm slow, I admit it. I'm slow. But it shouldn't be that hard, because I really worked on this. It would help too. It would help too to have a short descriptive statement about the agenda to be handed out. It should be right there in the corner. You could hand it out, just a half a page, that a tutorial guide on the agenda. Okay, right there. And my third point is, it's been 50 years since I daydreamed through a civics class, so help me. And I do not know the difference between a resolution and an ordinance. I do not have any idea of the progression. What's the migration pattern for a resolution? What goes on? What does the board do? And it seems like in the interest of educational function of the board, you could put, I hope, another half page attached to this half page about what does the board do? What do you do?
Marilyn, time's up.
Oh, ouch.
Come back next month.
Huh?
Come back next month, finish it.
Thank you, sincerely.
Ms. Laura Pressing.
Hi, I'm Laurel Pressing, the mayor of Urbana, and I want to talk about the Provena case that was settled today by the Illinois Supreme Court. I think there's, according to Ron Eldridge, the controller of Urbana, we have $8 million in tax money, and that is in Urbana's TIF 3 district. And what I am going to recommend to the City Council is that we distribute it to all the taxing bodies. That would give the county 9%, which is $720,000. And I don't want anybody to think that this means all these governments are out of the woods, because we're not. The ongoing revenue is about $1.4 million a year, of which the county would get $126,000. The city would get about $210,000 a year. And when you consider that the state of Illinois is talking about cutting the local government share of income tax from 10% to 7%, we calculated that the city would lose $1 million a year. So this extra tax money would only cover about 1/5 of what we might potentially use. And I think, like you, like us, the sales tax and income tax numbers are down. So this is a step in the right direction, but it's certainly not going to solve our problems. And I did talk to the county Democrats at their caucus, and I'm willing to talk to the Republicans as well. I handed out the information about how our tax base is your tax base, and the connection between economic development in the city. And certainly we do not measure economic development by concrete. We measure it by jobs, by income, and by how well the communities are faring. And I would like to comment, I've done a few pages on Olympian Drive, and I think one thing that needs to be pointed out is that there are about 20 miles of railroad between the I-74 overpass in Champaign and the US 136 underpass in Rantoul. And on those 20 miles, there is no place you can go over or under those tracks. One of the advantages of Olympian Drive is that there would be a bridge built over the railroad tracks, and now people have to wait for 45 minutes at a time for 1.5 mile freight trains that can block more than one road simultaneously. One of the reasons the farmers support this is Mr. Heimberger, who owns much of the land, lost 2 buildings in 1990 because fire trucks couldn't get through. So he's always been a big supporter, and I think you will find over time that most of the people directly on that route do support it. So if you have any questions about what I'd handed out, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Thank you very much.
Mr. Paul Compton.
Good evening. My name is Paul Compton. I reside in Homer area in southeastern Champaign County. Tonight I would like to express my support for the resolution before you this evening. A resolution which deals with the way the county board will be reapportioned following the 2010 census. As citizens and voters, we are all tired of the political bickering that occurs at all levels of government. We simply want a better approach to government that does the right thing when you're representing the people of Champaign County. This approach to redistricting sets aside many of the things that people are tired of hearing about within the government and looks at the best way to address a mandatory process that is often very decisive. Secondly, this resolution creates an open process to redistricting. Through this resolution, the general public will have not only the opportunity to submit a map, but we will also be given the opportunity to provide our input through public open houses and online forums. The public will be invited and encouraged to submit their ideas and their maps to the Commission for consideration. How much open can you get? Finally, all maps that are considered by the Commission will be posted online. These steps are the greatest demonstrations of this fully transparent process. In closing, I just really see great benefits to this approach to redistricting, and I encourage each of you to support the resolution. Thank you.
Paul Beerbaum.
Thank you. I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Paul Beerbaum. I live west of Champaign on Bradley Avenue Extended. I'm here tonight in favor of an issue I feel strongly about. I support the resolution addressing the creation of a redistricting commission, and I hope that you do too. I feel that by creating this commission, the redistricting process will become less political. A redistricting commission that consists of more than county board members will eliminate some of the political posturing that typically happens when the majority party draws a map. Over the years, both Republicans and Democrats have redrawn the county board district maps. The result has been that each party draws a map to favor their incumbency and their platform. By redistricting commission that consists of 7 additional citizens, political influences will be limited, and citizens will have input and involved in the process. In closing, I support the resolution that's presented to you this evening, and I hope you can support the measure. Thank you for letting me provide my comments, and thank you for the great job you're doing in the county.
Mr. Dennis Riggs.
Good evening. I'm Dennis Riggs. I live 6 miles south and 2 miles east of the Sydney Dairy Barn, which is 4 miles north of Douglas County, by the way. Down here in the southeast corner of the county, I would like to express my support this evening for the establishment of the special commission to redraw the maps for the next county board. I got my census report the other day, got it all filled out, got it sent in, and of course this is our chance that we can make this happen with the new census, and that's the whole reason here. A part of the resolution I really appreciate is the procedural fairness. I believe that this process will create an even playing field for county board members and the public alike. Included in the resolution criteria, which must be met by each map submitted by the commission, is public input from the general public. Criteria which will ensure a fair and unbiased map is presented to the board and will be presented for your approval. Criteria that should not be utilized: voting patterns, voting records, past election results, party affiliation, or incumbency. Forget those. This is the county. We got to work for the county services that we have, that we provide. I suggest, however, using the following type of criteria. Of course, compact and contiguous areas is very important. Then let's use some common county-based taxing districts where we can work together, such as drainage districts, school districts, fire protection districts. Let's face it, the dollars that I pay for my county tax bill are based on county services, not on county politicians. These criteria, along with the federal requirements, will help us to ensure that the best interest of Champaign County taxpayers are respected. I appreciate this chance to speak to you this evening. I urge you to support the resolution for the special commission. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Amy Foster.
Hi. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Amy Foster. I work in the Treasurer's Office, and I am a member of the bargaining team for the General Unit, as well as for all units on economics. I've been a member of multiple negotiations during my years of service here. I come to work and take pride in the job that I do. I put every effort forth every day to have a job well done, and when I take time out of that job to come to the negotiating table, I do so with open ears and an open mind. I ask questions and listen without prejudice to the issues and concerns that are presented. I come to the table session after session with a positive attitude and a real desire to work together to find solutions to the issues brought to the table that are feasible, acceptable, and hopefully mutually beneficial. I believe everyone representing our members, as well as most of those representing the various groups of management, are all putting our best efforts forth to negotiate. I have had to experience from one representative nothing but negative vibes, a bad attitude toward the employees of this county. This comes across as very disrespectful and creates a negative atmosphere in the room that is difficult to overcome. It's also difficult to continue working together towards a common goal, which is a new and suitable contract. I am speaking to you about this now because that person is the representative for your group, Alan Nudo. The tone of voice, negative body language, snide remarks, and combative attitude has reached a point where I believe it is harmful to the process for both sides. The negative air this has created amongst all other negotiating members only impedes the process. The my way or the highway attitude, the my opinion is the only opinion that matters attitude does not encourage good faith bargaining. I have seen this damage before in negotiations. My shame is that that was on our side years ago. It was miserable, and it drew negotiations out far longer than was necessary and left a lot of bad blood amongst everyone involved on both sides of the table. I do not believe that sitting on opposite sides of the table means that we automatically must be mortal enemies. I really do believe that we can work together to find acceptable solutions to our problems that are mutually beneficial. After all the work that we have put together daily outside the negotiating room, we work together as colleagues and co-workers and as a community and its constituency. We all want a similar outcome, good solutions. Perhaps some of them are a little outside of the box, but they're still good solutions, and they are mutually beneficial. I am here to ask you to renew your efforts to work with us, whether that means a change in your chosen representative or just a change in his attitude and approach. I simply ask the courtesy that is extended by one group is returned by the other so that the negotiating process may proceed unimpeded. Thank you.
Al Klein.
Thank you. The advantage of being an elected partisan is that I don't have to hide or dissemble my feelings on the matter. I think that the redistricting resolution has two objectives. One is to ameliorate the majority that the Democrats now have on the county board. And number two, I'm afraid, is to push the county board members away from responsibility for what really is their duty. Typically, elected people are not permitted to delegate their responsibilities. And to appoint a committee which will put you under such pressure that you feel obliged to follow the dictates of that committee, I think is dangerously close to doing that. Incidentally, the committee, of course, will not actually draw the map in the sense of two guys in the back room. I'll assume those two guys, because I am me, I'll assume the map drawer will be, provided by the county. That's in the resolution. It has to be people provided by the county. How about Sheldon? And who well, I'll Ziegler for legal counsel. But your current map meets all the population criteria that are set by your Section 11 in this resolution. How did we do that? We took it under advice of our counsel. We took 0 deviation from the mean district size as the goal, and we met it. That means that all of the other measures, the statistics follow. Met it in the sense of less than 0.5%, so it would round to 0 in terms of the deviation. The proposed standards are much relaxed from that. I agree with people who are uncomfortable with that, particularly in the minds of people like me who think I know who actually would be drawing the map. It just invites mischief, as I believe Mr. Betts pointed out, when you're allowed to fiddle with those margins and come back and say, well, I had to do that in order to accomplish other objectives. Number 2, the current map is compact and contiguous, and of course it follows all of the requirements of the state law. If it weren't, we would have been challenged, and we were great pains not to be challenged, if those of you remember 10 years ago. So of course it's legal, and it was found to be compact, contiguous, and of course equal population. So what is a fair map? What's the objective here? Has that been really defined? Does this mean all districts are competitive? We now have 5 Democratic and 4 Republican districts. What more can you expect if you keep, I will assume you keep 9 districts. And if you do expect something else, like 50-50 districts, 9 of them, I don't think that's possible. How could you obtain that result without taking voting patterns into account or other forbidden information? Incidentally, of course, we do use no voter records in the construction of our map. The final map will favor one party over the other. They can't all be 50-50 districts. Now, apparently, this is to be a surprise. The committee will be surprised. The county board will be surprised after you have commissioned it, after you've adopted it, because it says right in the resolution that you aren't going to use any political criteria to review the map. So how do you know what you're going to get? If you get a, well, I won't go there. Many in this process will not be more transparent than the current system. The current system is perfectly transparent. You're all sitting right here. The board is the board job. The board does the duty, and it accepts maps from anyone and implements one of them. Loading the committee, forming this committee, loading it with representatives of interest groups, it's very selected interest groups, as you were debating what you put in and what put out, just as proxies for political interests accomplishes little in that regard. By the way, if you're perfecting the thing later, I noticed that organized labor has morphed into labor, if that means anything. Also, both parties are excluded from explicit participation, but does anyone here think that the major parties, will not be involved?
Mr. Klein, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Tara McCauley.
Hi, I'm from AFSCME, the representative of county employees. As you can see, we have a lot of county employees here tonight. There will be more county employees here at the next meeting and the meeting after that until the board and the county management realizes that what you're asking us in bargaining is an insult. The wage increases and the cuts in your insurance are not acceptable. And also, I don't know if you realized when Amy was giving her speech, people can see your faces, so some of you making faces and rolling your eyes. I mean, we are not children. That was a legitimate issue that we have, a concern we have with your bargaining representative. Your employees recognize the times we're in. We don't have our heads in the sand. We understand it's a difficult economy. But while we see that, we see the county make bad decisions. We see that on the agenda tonight is an increase in the amount of money you're paying the private firm to run the nursing home. I don't know if you all understand, the nursing home is in turmoil. The turnover there it just increases. Things have not improved for your employees at the nursing home. Since that company has started, it has not improved. We have grievances constantly, more than any other workplace I work with. I work with people all over this area, the central Illinois area. That nursing home is like no other place. in terms of how people are treated. And from what I understand, you want to increase the amount of money you pay this company. You pay an administrator to administrate that nursing home, $80,000 a year, I believe. Why are you going to pay a company $240,000 a year to help the administrator do his job? I don't understand. Our members don't get companies to help them do their jobs. Do you guys have special private companies to help you do your jobs? And what happens when you're short-staffed? Guess what happens? You just do 3 people's jobs, right? And staffing has gotten shorter. Our members are willing to do that. They're willing to do that, but they are not willing to do that when they see you funneling money into these companies. They see the county management gets raises, upgrades, sorry. There's a lot of that stuff going on, and we don't think that's fair when that's not happening for our members. So you guys, I mean, we aren't going anywhere. So you can keep putting on the table 0% or 1%, pay more for your health insurance, but you know what? We're not going to let you balance your budget on the backs of your employees. We aren't going to let you. They work hard. They make this county run. And if you want to keep bargaining with us at the table, that's fine. We'll still be coming back. It's just going to escalate. So you all make your decision. You make the decision what you want to do.
Mr. Kevin Sandifer.
Hi, my name is Kevin Sandifer. As most of you know, I was also a member of the team which drew the current county board map. What you may not know is for the last 12 years I've lived in Royal, Illinois, a very small village of about 200 people. I share a address with Ron there. It's not the first time I've lived in a rural area. I grew up in one of the most rural areas of St. Clair County. I had a cornfield immediately outside my bedroom window. My family owned a small amount of farmland just north of Waterloo, Illinois. The reason I ended up in Royal is because my wife is from there. She grew up on a farm just south of Royal. Many of you in this room know her parents, knew her parents, and the rest of her family. My family has very deep and profound roots in the rural parts of Illinois. That's why rural representation has always been of particular interest to me. And it's why, as part of the team that put together the last map, we ended up with a map that has 4 essentially rural districts from which rural representatives can be elected. My concern is that with the redistricting commission as it is presently structured, you are looking at guidelines which will significantly reduce rural representation on the county board, perhaps even cutting it by as much as half. And the reason I say that is because of the math itself. We don't know what the final numbers are going to be until the census comes out a year from now. But I have looked at preliminary numbers, I've looked at numbers from 2007, I've looked at clearly identifiable trends. And what I am seeing is a dramatic reduction in the percentage of rural population. Let's define the terms very quickly. When we talk about rural versus urban, what we're really talking about is Champaign-Urbana and everything else, to all intents and purposes. There is a so-called urban rectangle, which consists of 4 townships: City of Champaign, Cunningham, Urbana Township, Champaign Township. There is every reason to believe that in the next census, that rectangle will contain at least 70% of the population in this county. I believe that it is more likely to be closer to 75%. What does that mean? It means that there's only 25% left over for the so-called rural districts. That's important because of the equal population requirement. Let's assume, for the sake of easy comparison, that we stay with 9 districts. That means that each district has to have just over 11% of the total population. If you've only got 25% available for the rural districts, you are barely going to have 2 rural districts under a new map that is drawn under the guidelines as they're expressed, because you have to have as many compact and contiguous districts within the urban rectangle, because you have a provision that you do not want to needlessly divide cities or villages or other geopolitical units. That means you have to pack as many compact and contiguous districts in that rectangle as possible. That means you're going to end up, most likely, with only 2 rural districts, effectively cutting the rural participation on this board in half. I find that deeply disturbing. I'm very concerned about that, and it is the primary reason that I am opposed to the Redistricting Commission as it is currently constituted. One other subject I want to touch on very briefly. Laurel talked about the Illinois Supreme Court case decision today. It's historically significant, not just for the agencies and governmental units in this county, but potentially for the economic structure of the delivery of health care throughout the rest of the state and perhaps the rest of the country. I'm amazed that such a significant decision had its origin in this very building with the Champaign County Board of Review. Most of you know my wife, Laura Sandifer, is the current chair of that board. In her very first year on the Board of Review, she did the research and wrote a significant portion of the original opinion that led to this case today. With her other fellow board members, Stan and Dan, they raised questions which ultimately required the Illinois Supreme Court to answer. I find myself in a very unique position. It's a situation that I don't recall ever having anything that even remotely resembled, because it makes for a very unusual day when the Illinois Supreme Court says that your wife is right about something. They could have just asked me. I mean, I could have told them.
With that, Mr. Senator, your time is up.
Thank you.
Ms. Debbie Clark.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Clark, and I'm an employee at the Champaign County Nursing Home and a union steward. I have a letter here that I'm going to read about some concerns at the nursing home. Let me just start by saying that when I started working at the nursing home, I truly enjoyed working at this facility. But over the last year, working conditions have become harder and harder. I have numerous bosses that all have some kind of authority to oppress the staff with criticism and complete lack of respect for the tough job we have. On any given day at the facility, we answer to an administrator, an assistant administrator, the DON, the ADON, a unit manager, and a nursing supervisor. I have never before had a job where there are so many bosses who wanted to assert their authority. Funny thing is, you can ask all of them the same question and get 6 different answers. Rules are consistently changing so that you never really know how much to correctly handle any situation that arises. It feels as though this is the atmosphere that they have tried to create here. It seems as though we are kept guessing as what is really going to happen, what is really happening purposely. The skilled staff walks on eggshells, wondering what they are going to get in trouble for next. What rule have they broken that day, and who is going to get hauled into the office? Meanwhile, it is the residents that are suffering from this work environment. Their welfare is not being taken into consideration. Clinical staff work hard. We have been stretched so thin in the name of the almighty dollar. That is very hard to do a good job every day. The residents spend most of their day waiting their turn to be taken care of. What a sad existence. And if you spend most of their day, and if you dare tell anyone that you need help and can't get things done, then you are bullied and told that you can't handle the workload and that you shouldn't work here. It is this kind of response from the management that keeps people from wanting to ask for any help. So staff is just keeping their heads down and trying to get through the day, which I believe is exactly what management wants us to do. There should be a sign posted on the nurses' suite reading, "Shut up and go back to work, and we don't care what you have to say." I also want to say that there is an us versus them theme happening in the building. Staff is only summoned to the office to be disciplined or investigated. Other than that, we are not spoken to. Good morning, no good morning, or hello when passing in the hallway. No good job or thanks given. Only mean-spirited conversations where any opinion that may differ from theirs is not only unwelcome, but also completely disregarded. Our DON walks around texting on her phone and averting her eyes so that as not to make any eye contact with you, so she isn't expected to speak. I have actually been directly speaking to the DON, and she will get a text and reply while I'm trying to talk to her. That is not only rude, but very humiliating to see how little you are valued at this place where you spend 40 hours plus week taking care of patients. And lastly, I can't finish without touching on the nursing leadership. We are going through some tough times here, and instead of trying to be uplifting and inspiring, the DON and the ADON are simply separating themselves from the staff and blaming all of the issues on the staff. Shouldn't our leaders be holding us together, accepting their responsibility, and guiding us into better times? The working conditions and morale in this building is bad, and that is a direct reflection of the leaders. I wanted to provide my suggestions as we can begin to build better working relationships. But I knew that they would not only be disregarded, but would most likely be laughed at the next management meeting, so I decided not to waste my time. Thank you.
Ms. Marge Carney.
My name is Marge Carney. I'm a 20-year county employee, and many of the things that I came up here to say to you, unexpectedly, Amy has already said. So instead, I'll give you a little background. 20 years ago, I came to work for the county. When it came time for salary raises, we were told there was no money, the money had been spent, and so there couldn't be any raises. They eked out, as a little time went by, they eked out a little money, and we got a small raise. Every year since I've been there, we've been told the same thing. Finally, some years back, we looked around and we saw other places were getting the money. The money was spent on many other things, and we decided the money was there, but the priority wasn't. We were on the bottom of the list. Through the years, the county has become lots more friendly, has tried to help their workers, and so we haven't been back here. As Barb said, I haven't seen you in a long time. No, you haven't. But once again, I think we're in the same boat that we were when we started. There's no money. We shouldn't be getting raises. But I still feel the same thing. It's a priority thing. Yes, the economy was bad. And yes, the nursing home was sucking up millions. But things are changing. If you read the newspapers, the economy has snapped back faster than they ever expected. Take a look at the stock market. And they expect it to keep coming. The county has met their problem with the nursing home, I think, possibly not with the employees there, but with the money, the financial. That's going to improve. So we were told that's where our raises were going one year, That's going to improve. The whole thing looks better. And I think it's time to think about the fact that, even the state of Illinois, in their financial problems, recognizes the fact that everything's going up. The cost of living is still going up, economy notwithstanding. The electricity's going up, taxes are going up, home taxes, water's going up, food continues to go up, and rents go up. And that's what the county workers have to contend with, and you yourself have to contend with. And it's true. I opened a bill yesterday to pay. It had gone from $79 to $99, and it was simply a $20 add-on cost of living. Number one, we're asking for decent raise for the salaries so we can meet our cost of living too. The second thing that really concerns us, and it's equally important, is that you're asking us to sign a blank check for insurance. That's what you're requesting when you ask that we accept a percentage of whatever raises might occur in the future for insurance. And I look at each and every one of you as very intelligent, or you wouldn't be here. So you can recognize that that's what you're asking if you do that. I don't think any one of you would sign a blank check even if I said, trust me. Even
Marge,
though you know me.
your time's up.
Thank you.
Jim Heimberger.
Hello, I'm Jim Heimberger. I live at 2934 Stone Crate Boulevard in Urbana. Yes, I am in favor of Olympian Road going through. And the main reason is for safety. Now, some of you people have my main reason. I'm not going to say everybody else. My main reason is for safety. I know some of you people have heard these words, but I'll repeat them again. A couple weeks ago, there was a train that set out over Fort Harris Crossing from 12:23 to 12:57. That's a long time if you want to get an ambulance, a fire truck, a deputy sheriff. In that time, there was a deputy sheriff that tried to get across there twice because of the train. He started moving and he'd stop. And so he had to go south on Lincoln Avenue, and he was going at a high rate of speed. I don't know where he was going. Then last Tuesday, not this last Tuesday, but the Tuesday before, there was a train out there, and I stopped on my tractor and I counted 161 cars. That's over 1.5 miles long. Now, I know there's some folks in the audience here tonight that will say, well, they've never seen one that long, and that. Well, that's because they're over 1 mile south of Fort Harris Road, so they can't see through what the train traffic is. It doesn't happen every train that comes through there, but it happens, and this is during the daytime. I don't know what happens at night. And so that's my concern. It'd be nice to have that overpass over the railroad track. I own 300, and me and my wife own 380 some acres, just right close to where Olympian's going to be. 17 acres of it I own, and my wife owns. That the I don't know their name, but it's the prairie where the goat farm is. They have said, and they have portrayed, that road is going to go through their property. That's not true. I own the 17 acres, and there's no way. Matter of fact, when I first sold them 7 acres, me and him went outside, and I told him there's a possibility of a road going through there 5 to 20 years. And he said, well, that'd be good, because we're going to try to make a pick-your-own orchard here. And he was okay. 2 years ago, everything was, I thought, all right. I told him, he come to me, wanted to buy some more ground. He didn't work it. He got me to sell to someone else, and which was fine, because it was to help his farm to raise hay and goats. And I said, that's fine. So I did it. Now they're all against it, like they're saying that they didn't know anything about it. I've got paperwork right here that tells how long this has been out into the public through, when you have meetings, informational meetings and all that. I've got them back here to 97. I got some more articles in here to 95. I think it needs to be put through. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for the community. That's why I'm for it, because you can't get from 45 to the west side with grain and with emergency vehicles. And I think this is really needed. Plus, also, this road, if it's according to the plans that I have in here, is not going to be within a rock throw of the goat farm. It's going to be over 300 and some feet away from it. That's the road. Yes, they were going to buy property for me to buy for Phil and everything else, but that is not going to affect the actual road part.
Mr. Heimberger, your time is up.
Okay, and thank you.
Ms. Nora Stewart.
Good evening. My name is Nora Stewart, president of ASME Local 900, which represents the employees of Champaign County. I stand again before you to voice the concerns of how the employees of the Champaign County Nursing Home are being treated. Did you know that the employees at the nursing homes were being made to do jobs outside of their classifications because management would not hire additional staff? Grievances were filed on behalf of these employees, and each of the 3 steps of these grievances were denied, as well as the 4th step, which comes before the county board chairperson. ASME took these grievances to arbitration and have won. I have a copy of the ruling in case anybody would like to see it. After these cases are taken to arbitration, it was found that the nursing home administrator had indeed violated our contract. The ruling said that the county was to cease and desist this act immediately. A CNA was fired 3 months ago for supposedly not answering a patient's light. Well, these grievances were denied as well, and as well was taken to arbitration. We have taken in the past 3 months over 7 cases to arbitration against the Champaign County Nursing Home and have won every single one. Did you know that these arbitrations are costing the county well over $10,000? That does not include the fees paid to the state's attorney's office who represents the county in these cases. Nor does this include the $7,500 that was just paid to the CNA who was fired unfairly. At this minute, there are more than 35 grievances that have been filed against the management at the nursing home that are waiting to be heard. I ask that each of you take a minute to just pop up at the nursing home and talk to these employees and learn firsthand what's going on. All they are asking is to be treated fairly and with respect, the same as you would be on your daily jobs. Thank you.
Ms. Cher Hample.
Good evening. My name is Cher Hample, and I live in County Board District Number 7, and I'm here to support and ask you to support Resolution 7307, which establishes the Champaign County Redistricting Commission. I support the establishment of this open process where citizens with interest and expertise can produce a reapportionment map for the good of the Champaign County. This is an opportunity for citizens to participate directly in our Republican/representative form of government. And I say that because all too often people say democracy in America and the state of Illinois has a representative form of government, not democracy. I thank you for this time, and I ask you to support this resolution.
Ms. Stephanie Holderfield.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Holderfield, and I live in District 1. I live in Mahomet, and I live in a rural area. Mahomet's still considered rural, I don't care where you live. First of all, I'd like to share a summary of a sort of a quote from Steve Beckett. At a meeting that I attended, Mr. Beckett said that he was ashamed of himself for entering a back room and redrawing the last map. Adoption of Resolution 7307 establishes a redistricting commission for the election process is the ethical and moral obligation of this board. The Champaign County Board will be setting a trend for other communities to sit up and take notice. Giving this resolution an up vote gives the people the power to vote in quality candidates in the fairest manner possible. A gerrymandering map disrespects the election process. Establishing a bipartisan redistricting commission gives this county board an opportunity to right a wrong that has been done to the people of Champaign County. It's been done by both parties, and this gives you an opportunity to right that wrong, which we would be very proud to have done for us. Please give this resolution 7307 a yes vote. Thank you.
Mr. Andrew Timms.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Timms. Thank you, Mr. Chair, County Board members, for allowing us all to give you input as you weigh your choices in consideration of your vote in regard to Resolution 7307. In this environment in which we're witnessing unprecedented disregard for the will of the voter by those who are elected, not here, nationally, it is refreshing that you are considering bringing some sunlight to the process of redistricting. And as a candidate for County Board District 6, I did some talking to some of my neighbors and fellow citizens in County Board District 6, regardless of party, men and women, various different backgrounds. And one person in particular who coincidentally is a Democrat said, I'm all for it. He said it enthusiastically and without hesitation. I also, on a related note, had the opportunity to speak to a very dear friend of mine who is a citizen of the state of Iowa. And for those of you, for the record, there is some elements of this proposal that you're considering were drawn from the policies and laws in Iowa, and he said that that was one aspect of his state of which he was most proud, the independent redistricting that they had. So I think that I applaud you as a governmental body for demonstrating that you as elected officials are more interested in serving the public than in being self-serving, and I would urge you to support Resolution 7307. Thank you.
Finally, Mr. George Boyd, who requested to be last.
I'm going to pass.
All right.
I'll defer for this.
Mr. Thorson, do you want to take his place?
Sure.
I have 3 minutes left, and I'll use 2. Eric Thorsland. I live in actual rural Mahomet, where there's still mud. First of all, talking about the map amendment 7307, we're extolling the virtues of a committee picked by this board to direct them in a very important process. I want to refer you back to the LRMP vote, where we had an 18-member board picked by this board. A very important process, basically the next 30 or 40 years, how Champaign County will look forever. So this isn't just redistricting, this is the entire future of the county. If we're going to put a lot of weight into a board picked by this board, give it all that weight and power, we should also consider the fact that 3 years was the work done by the LRMP board. That work is very good, it's very important, it's done now, and it's coming up next month. I'd like you to vote for it. Pass it, move it along so that we can implement some things that we terribly, terribly need. As far as Olympia Drive, the mayor again says that we're going to derive jobs from this. May I point out that Champaign brought us North Prospect. I know that everyone's taxes went down in the city of Champaign once that was put in. I know that all your tax bills are lower this year. Our unemployment is as high as most other places. I will assure you also that as population grows, which we'll find out it doesn't, the percentage of unemployment tends to stay the same. People will move to where they think the jobs are. If we make what we hope is to be jobs, and it's just hope, people will come on that hope. They will then become people who will work minimum wage jobs, qualify for public assistance, LIHEAP, we will actually put a bigger burden on Champaign County than we probably would if we allowed tax-paying farm ground to stay tax-paying farm ground without any request. I agree, perhaps we need a railroad bridge, but if we put the Olympia Drive Bridge in, that 30-mile stretch with no bridge would have 2 bridges within the south 2 miles, and then we'd still have 28 miles without. So thank you and good night, and I did it in 2.
Is there further public participation? Seeing none, we'll close that. Move on to communications and announcements from the county board. Mr. Richards.
I served as the county's representative for the high-speed rail delegation that went to Springfield last week. Just wanted to make sure everybody knows, first of all, that the Senate Bill 2571 passed out of the Senate today. So we do have a commission that's passed through the Senate to institute high-speed rail. They are still working on getting money for a study, but I had meetings with IDOT Secretary Gary Hanig and Senate Transportation Chairman Martin Sandoval, and both of them assured me that they are very much in favor of this project, and they're very aware of the economic development benefits that high-speed rail would have, 220 high-speed rail would have for Champaign-Urbana.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson.
Someone in public participation mentioned the census forms, and I would just like everyone in the room to make sure they fill theirs out. And if people are watching tonight, getting a good return on those census forms affects all of our governmental bodies.
Any other announcements? Okay, I have one. In the Washington Post yesterday, there's an article entitled, "How to Stay Out of Trouble on Spring Break." It's primarily an article that Mr. Betts wrote, and I just want to quote one line from the article. "If you cannot glide like an eagle while sober, it is fairly likely that you will not soar much better while drunk." Well stated, Mr. Betts.
I've done it.
Okay, any other announcements? Let's move on to approval of the minutes. I seek approval of the minutes for February 18th, 2010.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. James, second by Mr. Rosales. Discussion. See none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the Nursing Home Board of Directors. First, we'll have the report of the FY 2009 final budget by the current president of the board. Or who's doing the talking here? Who's doing the talking?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'll finish. You're fine.
Computer's over there.
How you feeling? All right. I'm Mike Scavato from Management Performance Associates, and I'm working with the nursing home. Can everybody hear me okay? All right.
Very well.
Thank you. And, I'll start. Mary Ellen will finish up, and we'll take some questions. Do you have any? I thought I saw some new faces out there. So to get our terminology straight, we're going to be talking about 3 types of payer classifications. We're going to be talking about Medicaid, which is our largest. We're talking about the Part A of the Medicare program, which is the post-hospital rehab service, and then there's a standard private pay that we have at the nursing home. We'll also spend some time talking about the intergovernmental transfer, which will now become an intergovernmental agreement, and that is extremely important to us. We'll leave time at the end for questions. I'll start off with a slide that I think you'll find kind of interesting. It recaps 2009 and forecasts where we're expecting to go in 2010. When we first started working with the nursing home in roughly
July of 2008. We came in with a low census somewhere. I remember about 143 was the census. We closed fiscal year 2008 with a loss of about $1.8 million, which is the bottom that you see down here. We expect to report a significant improvement for 2009. Get out of there. All right, so now what that number represents is a loss of about $150,000. The books are still open. It's our best guess. We're going to come in close to $150,000. It might not be exactly a loss of $150,000, but our numbers have historically been accurate. We think we've got things pretty much complete. And I want to just take my hats off to the team effort at the nursing home. I want to recognize that effort. We couldn't do this. No one does this type of performance single-handedly. There's a group effort going on over there. And I would submit to you that by any yardstick, we have made some progress in 2009. And what we're suggesting can result from the budget in 2010, if we hit our targets, is a gain of approximately $460,000 at the end of the year. So let's get into where we think things are going to go on the budget. We're looking at an average daily census of 195. We'd like to get it more. Today it's 200. And 195 would represent an occupancy of about 80% based on all the beds, which are 243. You can see that the mix that we're trying to achieve there. Now, Medicaid still remains our largest payer segment. Private pay is a pretty good percentage in the market. Medicare at 14% could be a challenge for us. But today we're at 24. We really need to be at 27. In terms of the numbers, those percentages translate into what you see on the screen. There's a small market for Medicare in Champaign County. It averages about 72 a day, and that's a discussion that we've been having in earnest at the nursing home board for the last couple of months. We are starting to get more of our Medicare admissions, more of our share of the Medicare admissions. This is going to be a continuing struggle. One of the problems with Medicare is that all providers have the same strategy. We all need Medicare. So we're basically chasing after the same market. Dementia continues to run close to maximum capacity, and most of the residents in dementia are on the Medicaid segment. Private pay is a good mix for Champaign County. It's been improving and holding steady lately. We think that we can hit that 70 number. The big thing to notice here that we're roughly a $13.5 million operation. Most of this revenue, all of this revenue, very little exception, is from patient care services. You're used to seeing us report and hearing us report on the nature of an intergovernmental transfer. Under that government program, counties were reimbursed an increased amount. In your particular case, you took that increased amount and sent 38% back to the state. And if you looked at the financial statements, you'd see there was a major entry in expense every month. That program is history as of October 1. We're on a different program. Correct term is intergovernmental agreement. And I say that for my own benefit because I keep calling it the IGT. Nonetheless, we're now on the standard rate, which gets adjusted quarterly. This requires us to have a significant skill in coding different things. Under the old program, we had developed our skills in coding for Medicare criteria. Now we're having to code for Medicaid criteria. And it's a technicality, but it's a big deal at the nursing home. These are skills that we have to learn, and we'll have to watch how we manage the nursing component of the rate, because that can go up every quarter and it can go down every quarter. Obviously, we're not interested in southbound numbers. We want it to be northbound. In addition to this, because of your status as a county facility, you get what's called a federal pass-through. This is still in the process of negotiation with the state and the federal government, and it is going nowhere fast. In the current state of affairs with the state budget and the furlough days that we're seeing at the state Department of Healthcare and Family Services, I would not want to venture a guess as to when this gets done. But I do believe that we will eventually get an intergovernmental agreement, and you will collect an additional $18 a day on your Medicare rate. That's built into the budget in terms of revenue. The state loses multiple millions of dollars by not doing an intergovernmental agreement. The feds want it done, the state wants it done. It's just a matter of getting the parties to agree on the final questions and continuing to hack out a deal. The Medicare per diem that you see up here, $400, is achievable. Private pay rates have already been increased 3%, and the tax anticipation warrants have been issued, just like they were last year. Not much change here on the non-labor items. I would point out down the line that we continue to include depreciation in our budget. We are making payments on some debt, the $4 million, paying interest on your long bonds. I forget if they're 20 or 30 years. We're not making any interest payments on those. As we just talked about, the IGT transfer expense has been eliminated, and I would note that we are making significant progress in getting a reduction in our contract labor expense. It was as high as $1.6 million, and it is coming down rapidly. Not making any changes in our staffing. Benefit costs are the same, 29% of salaries. We have been making considerable progress in improving our productivity. And I'm taking a look at figures from December of '07 through February of 2010. Let me get to my notes a bit here. If you measured this, well, wait a second, I've got the numbers here. If you'd measured this in terms of raw numbers, if you took the average for calendar '08 versus the average for calendar '09, there's been a drop of 11.5% in unscheduled absences. It runs from about 7 or 8 a day down to about 6 or 8 a day. And 7 or 8 unscheduled absences is difficult to deal with in any business. We have the same issue. If you take a look at the incentive that was introduced into the latest collective bargaining agreement, the improvement is almost 17%. So that's definitely heading in the right direction. Everybody gains when we're more productive. Here's a recap. In the figures that I showed you, we got 13.5 in revenue, expenses of 14.1, which is a loss from operations of $500,000. Pick up the property tax, and we should be looking at a positive $461,000 after the property tax revenue. Cash is still very tight. It's thin, very little margin for error. Our payables run from anywhere from 60 to 120 days. We're still not satisfied with that performance. We'd like to see that get better. We can only do better with increased volume and better cash flow. All budgets are assumption dependent. I think we've based this budget on realistic assumptions. Will they all come true? The answer is no. Something is going to go wrong during the course of the year, and the question is going to be, are we going to be capable of adapting? And my answer is, I hope so. But I think that you can see that we're on a positive trajectory. We had a great improvement over 2008, and I hope that we can continue to keep things rolling. Mary Ellen.
Can you hear me? Yes. Good evening. I welcome the opportunity to provide a brief update on the activities of the Champaign County Nursing Home Board. I currently serve as the chair. While much has changed at the nursing home in the last 2 years, it has not been without consistent and careful planning and oversight. The 7 members of the board each bring unique, valuable experiences to our conversations. Jan Anderson has a nursing background. Dr. Charles Lansford was a physician at Carle. They both bring a knowledge of the medical environment. Peter Jakowski, who was an Associate Vice President of Business and Finance at the university, and Alan Nudo, a business owner, carefully scrutinized the financial reports provided at the monthly board meeting. Prior to taking a management position at Christie Clinic, Jason Hersbrunner was a nursing home administrator and is familiar with the federal and state nursing home regulations. My background is in human resources. And finally, our newest member, LaShonda Hambrick, has jumped right in with valuable observations on a variety of issues. Mike Scavata and Andrew Buffenbarger keep the board in the loop on a regular basis in between meetings. I don't think a week goes by where we don't hear from Mike. Either is just a phone call away, and when any of us have a question or a need for clarification, they're there. Deb Busey is an invaluable resource. The last 2 years, we have primarily focused on stabilizing the financial issues and the status of the nursing home and addressing human resource issues. Clearly, you can see from Mike's presentation that although we are not out of the woods yet, we are certainly headed in the right direction. Our patient mix is more balanced, patient occupancy has increased, our census has grown and stabilized, and our contract nursing costs have dropped. In terms of human resources, we now have in place a strong management team. The team has developed a new way of working together, which will free Andrew and Karen, who is the director of nursing, to do some strategic planning. As the demographics change, we want to ensure that Champaign County Nursing Home has planned for the future such that our services match the needs of our community. We are sending management staff to training outside the organization and providing training within the organization. An incentive program has been developed to encourage consistent attendance, and employees have responded well. Board members have attempted to attend many of the employee events. This is a hard-working group of employees, and we want them to know we appreciate what they do on a daily basis to provide quality care to our residents. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to update you on the activities of the Champaign County Nursing Home Board.
Questions for Ms. O'Shaughnessy or Mr. Scavato from the board? Mr. McGinty.
I think the turnaround is great. It's just wonderful to hear about the difference in net income. My concern is that it's still negative. That's always going to be a concern when we're still 150,000 down.
Absolutely.
The changes in IGT, in reimbursement rate, the challenges and the tenuousness of expense control, these things make me feel like there's been great improvement, but we're still not out of the woods. Could you talk just a little bit about 2010 as we head into it? I see positive net income, 461,000 potentially if things fall right. How tender is that number? I know that things could change, but there are some big things out there that can make it difficult.
You know, like government reimbursement could be cut.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you just say it? Right. So it's true. Government reimbursement could be cut, and you have to scramble. I think we're anticipating that government reimbursement can be cut and is likely to be cut. The way that we deal with that is to make sure that our systems are responding, and that's why we're making such a big deal out of coding. Studies have shown that one of the biggest problems in nursing home management is failure of the staff to give themselves credit for activities that they're doing. So if our people are out there taking care of a resident and they're not recording it anywhere, we're not giving ourselves credit for it, we're not going to get reimbursed. And the problem is, I think, summed up by saying that the feds have created a system that's very sophisticated, and the industry is not up to speed to deal with it. So managerially, we've got to be able to respond. We have done that with some software. We're doing more of that with training, and practice makes perfect. We have to be aware of the fact that reimbursement can get cut. We have to be aware of the fact that you've got a 243-bed building. It's going to have a high break-even point. And no matter how you want to cut this, if the census drops, the financial performance is going to drop. And we've thought we could get to 205. That's not working out real good. We got to 203, I think, once. The recession took a little bit of a hold, and we were lucky to get to 195. So the fact that we're at 200 today is great news, but we're going to have to put together about 300 of those days where we're at 200 to make it work. So, Brendan, I would say reimbursement cuts are a big issue, and also making sure that we keep the volume up, the right types of volume. We can make it with this mix if we get the volume up there.
Other questions? Mr. James.
Tax warrants, are they for just 1 year, or are they going to be an ongoing?
We used them last year. We use them again this year. I'm hoping that we don't need them next year, but I can't say just now. I mean, I'd like to do it without them for sure. That's the best.
So when you're projecting those numbers, in my mind, and I'm no budget guru here, but doesn't that sort of skew the true figure because you're getting money from a future date to offset your costs now?
We're getting the cash. We're recognizing the revenue on a monthly basis. Right. We're getting the cash all at once. We're just putting the revenue in a monthly basis. So the answer is, in terms of cash, yes. In terms of revenue, no.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Scavato, I was pleased to see in your presentation that the unexcused absences have declined over the last year. I know that was a big issue that we dealt with previously, but I'm kind of curious, how many nursing homes does MPA manage?
5.
And how many of those are union employed?
4.
Just ballpark, without getting into real specifics that we couldn't discuss, but just ballpark. How does the number of union grievances compare Champaign Nursing Home compared to some of your other nursing homes?
Number 1.
All right. We're taking measures to address this, I assume, or there are different situations here that are different than your other nursing homes?
Well, every situation is different, and I mean, I'm really not in the position to get into that tonight. If you want to, I'd be glad to address that, perhaps in a closed session with you.
Further questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is Resolution 7309, authorizing amendment to contract with Management Performance Associates. Do we have a mover of that amendment? Moved by Mr. McGinty, second by Mr. Beckett. Hold on a second here while we get the lights on. Mr. Scavato, could you come back to the microphone? You can go up there.
Did you get a motion on the floor?
We have a motion, yeah. Could you please give an overview of the resolution, which is now on the floor?
Let me have that again.
Give an overview of the proposed changes in the contract with MPA.
Okay. You want me to describe it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let's see, what's the best way to look at this? Management Performance Associates manages 5 facilities. 4 of them are in Illinois. 4 of them are county facilities. If you were a private operator of nursing homes and you had multiple facilities, you would have 1 financial officer rather than 4. And so we were sitting around discussing this one day, and we came up with the idea of a way to create economies of scale for county facilities. And the charts of accounts are the same. The staffing levels, once you're over 120 beds, are about the same. And we felt that we could create a way to provide a financial reporting service that would give you the accuracy that you need, the timeliness that you need, the systemization of accounting procedures that you need, and lower cost. And the beta site on this was DeKalb County. We've been doing this there for over a year. The first year we went through the county audit. It was one of the best audit results that they've had in terms of accounting review and procedures. Involved in the audit now, a year later, still with the same results. The savings at DeKalb have been 40%, and we're projecting that we can do the same for you. Incremental savings resulted as a result of improved supervision in the business office might reduce that to 37%, but that's still a sizable reduction in your cost. So the question before you is one where we have proposed a methodology that we've developed. It works, and it's a matter of efficiency and effectiveness, and it can take your costs, which I think we had at $101,000, down to around $60,000. That's a significant reduction, and improve the timeliness and the accuracy of your financial reporting. And in a nutshell, I think that's a summary. I think at the present time, the timeliness issue is important because the position is vacant, and the longer we wait on this, we've got to do something. And to you.
How long has the position been vacant?
Position has been vacant for just a few weeks, not even a few weeks. Okay. When did she sign? 2 weeks, yeah.
Questions? Mr. James.
Was this an unexpected vacancy, or was it a planned vacancy?
It was an unexpected vacancy.
How much time is left in the contract?
I think 15 months. I think it's June 23rd of.
Okay.
It's close to July, just end of June of 11.
Mr. Richards.
I'd just like to point out to my fellow board members that this would take a public county government position and privatize it.
I'm not aware. We're not taking a position, and it's or.
Would they work for you or the county?
We are no. We're probably not communicating. It's probably my fault. That position would remain vacant. If you wanted to go back and fill it, that's another issue. But expanding our services saves you 40%. That's the way I'm looking at it.
So we're leaving it open, and we're merely de facto.
Well, technically, the position's been eliminated. You can reinstate it sometime in the future.
Is it being left open, or has it been eliminated?
It's been eliminated, technically.
Mr. McGinty.
I really don't care what you call it. I don't care what the term is to whether it's being eliminated or what matters here is that I think that it is. I've been fairly close to this for a long time. I think that we've had issues in this department for quite a long time. That we would get a higher level of expertise in this area. That this group has proven their success with us, has already, in many ways, perhaps even saved the nursing home. This saves money, potentially 40%, and Mr. Scavato just listed sensible reasons why to do it. I don't see why we wouldn't.
Mr. Scavato, if I could ask a question. If you were to hire a new comptroller from wherever, would it be easy or difficult, or it'd be easy or hard to find somebody who could do the job quickly?
Oh, without question, yes. You're talking probably It's 6 months.
So you say, what do you say, it's difficult or easy?
It's difficult.
Difficult.
It's going to be difficult to find someone to
It's
do
because
that.
it's a unique...
It's not just the fact that Champaign is a smaller market. These folks are tough to find in all but the very largest markets.
So it is a specialty?
Yes.
Other questions? Ms. Michaels?
What does that do to this budget that we just saw over here? Is that for this year or next year?
Drops expenses by 40 grand.
Well, not if you're projecting a $150,000 loss and you're adding this 62, it makes it 210.
That's not correct. The loss that we're projecting for, well, 150 was for 2009. The incumbent was in that figure. The gain that we're projecting is for 2010, and you would take any savings and add it to that positive figure.
And when you've eliminated this position, you're saying that you really need some sort of portion of this to be replaced, and this is what you're suggesting? Is that kind of what you're saying? Because if you've eliminated it, you've gotten rid of it, but it seems like
We would provide
part of this that needs to come back.
We would provide, yes, and the part that needs to come back is that there's a need for internal, for day-to-day supervision on an internal basis. There's 3 people in that department. All right, has to be some day-to-day supervision, roughly 10% of an existing salary. The rest of the service comes through my company, Management Performance Associates, on a daily basis, on an every other day basis, whatever you need. And the hookup is online. Your new accounting system, your new financial system, the MDI matrix system is already online. It's just a matter of logging on, taking a look at what your information is, going through the accounting entries with your staff, making sure the journal entries are correct, reviewing the procedures to make sure we have them down. You can do that from a remote location, and we do.
So basically, we are replacing this position with a portion of what the duties were before that we eliminated, correct?
That's one way to look at it, sure. All right.
Mr. Nudo.
I'm a little surprised by the Office of the Auditor's letter here to us this evening. It was just one short month ago that it was brought to our attention that there were problems. And there was a concern. In fact, there was a misrepresentation of the amount of concern, which Mr. Beckett corrected. And at that time, I mentioned after Mr. Beckett spoke that the Nursing Home Board and the MPA was looking at and working with this issue. What I'm hopeful of is the track record that MPA has with not only DeKalb but Rock Island, and the coordination between the auditor's office and MPA will be strong and eliminate some of the issues. It's my feeling that instead of this board having to read this letter, that the auditor and his staff work directly with MPA and get the problem solved. This is not the audience to be directing it to. This is what an auditor's department does with individual departments and works with them to correct the problems. Now, I'm sure that's been happening, but in my mind, this is really superfluous. What's key here is that we have good, credible records in a timely basis. We've got a firm that has given us a proven track record, not only with what they've done for us already, but what they've done for others in the auditing department. And I think it's a great move on our part to take this up.
Mr. Fabry, I'd like to give you the opportunity to comment on this.
Yeah, before the meeting, Mr. Nudo asked why this letter came so soon before tonight's meeting, and the answer was because I just found out about this yesterday morning. Now, I watched the 2 committee meeting agendas this month, and I didn't see anything on either committee meeting that we were eliminating the position of a county employee at the nursing home. As the auditor, I would have liked to know that the person that we work with directly at the nursing home for financial reporting, the person that we rely on to give us expenditure reports and revenue reports on a monthly basis, that position was being eliminated. It would have been nice to know about this. It would have been nice for board members to know about this through the committee process. But that's not how this came to the board. This went through the nursing home board on Monday and then was put on tonight's agenda, which is fine. I mean, that's your procedures, but that's why you got this letter. I would love to deal with these things one-on-one with our office and MPA, or with our office and the nursing home directly, but this nursing home is a public facility. It is owned by the people of Champaign County. You are their representatives. You are the people that the public goes to make sure that their facility is being handled properly. I believe very strongly that the position of controller at the nursing home should be a public employee, a county employee, accountable to you folks, because you are the ones responsible to the people for this very significant investment of the people of Champaign County. And so, yes, I think this is exactly the group that I should be addressing these concerns to. It would be great if I had an opportunity to go to the Personnel Committee or the Committee of the Whole, where the Personnel Committee business is handled, but that opportunity wasn't available in this case. So I'm coming to you, the full board, the people who represent the owners of the nursing home, and I'm telling you, in my opinion and the opinion of my staff, this position needs, one, a person on site. I mean, it looks like things are turning around in the nursing home, and I hope that's all right. I really do. But we're not there yet. We're not out of the woods. We have a full-time CPA position at the nursing home that we're eliminating. Is that really a good idea? And yes, you're saving money, but you're not getting the same thing that you currently have. You're not getting someone on site. You're not getting someone who answers to you. Was it last month? It blurs now. When we came to you with the issue of revenue reporting for the nursing home, we hadn't gotten, since the new accounting system went in, any of the monthly revenue reports that we needed to do our annual audit. And this board, thankfully, kept the budget books open and made it clear that this was an issue of importance, getting these revenue numbers in. We still don't have the expenditure numbers in. We can't do an audit of the nursing home with just the revenue numbers. Now MPA have the expenditure numbers. That's great. But you, the owners of the nursing home, through the auditor's office, don't have those numbers, can't get audited numbers until we get them. And I agree with Mr. Scavato. This position needs to be filled some way or another, and quickly. I would encourage you to direct the nursing home to do a search, to do interview, to fill this position as quickly as possible, and to rely on MPA in the meantime. But because it is important that we have somebody in there, because this is an important position and the information they give us is vital to the financial health of the nursing home. But I don't think that this is an opportunity to, as Mr. Richards correctly said, privatize this position. The person in that position should report to you, should report to the people of Champaign County.
Mr. Rosales.
Well, I'm fairly new on the board, but just for clarification, the nursing home director, who does he report to?
To the administrator?
Or to the management?
The administrator? The administrator is my employee.
So
he
you
reports
would hire and fire?
I hire and fire.
Just like you would this controller?
Yeah, and I think there's a misunderstanding that the controller in the nursing homes organization is a line position. Could
you explain that, please?
Pardon me?
Explain what you mean by line position.
It's subject to management. I can change the duties in that position at will. That's my right as the manager. I'm not saying that I would, but I have that authority. The fiduciary responsibility that I have is by contract to Champaign County. That you cannot avoid, and that's the reason why, to keep everybody honest, you have an independent auditor. And we welcome that, and we want to see the independent auditor. We want to get it right over there. We want to do it right the first time. and we want to have it as accurate as we can. But this idea that the controller is an independent watchdog is, I believe, incorrect. You have it set up so you have the independent auditor as your watchdog, which is very common, and I would suggest that you continue that. The notion that we're not responsible for Champaign County is incorrect. We are by contract.
I have a couple other questions as well. As we begin to move forward, your contract with the county is for 3 years, correct?
That's correct.
And you're about a year and a half within that contract?
Yeah, roughly the end of June of 11.
Am I kind of naive to assume that after the third year and the revenues are in the black and we're doing well, that we may not no longer need your services? Or is there a possibility there that you have run the system so well that we have benefited and profited from your services, and you will continue to serve not only for 3 years to come after the initial 3 years, but perhaps on an ongoing basis?
That's been our experience with the other counties that we're working with, yeah. Okay. You're right to end it after 3 years, but it's common to have it continue.
And what would happen with these positions if your contract does not continue?
It transitions back to you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right? That's a very flexible thing. You know, you can have it back whenever you want.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Knott.
You know, I've got two great aunts, private pay, I'll have you know right now out there. and so the burn rate of their assets is huge. I mean, you're talking between the two of them, I guess, probably 90 or 100 a year total, if I calculate it out right. And, you know, for years I've sat here and watched us politicize this at every angle. And I got to tell you, and I'm out there a lot, and I don't say a lot about it when I'm there, but, you know, I got to tell you, it gets really old, this group on both sides, or all sides, every month politicizing this entity. I swear to God, I think there's people on this board that want to see it fail. And I can tell you, the care out there is outstanding. The AFSCME employees and others take great care of my aunts. But I think you just struck a nerve with me tonight, and I'm sick and tired of it. You know, if we want to see this thing succeed, let's try to get it done. But time after time, or the auditor parading in, or us parading in, trying to politicize this thing, I'm telling you what, folks, why don't you grow up? This is just ridiculous. I just get tired of it.
I would like to have Ms. O'Shaughnessy make some comments, because this resolution did come from the Board of the Directors of the nursing home.
Thank you. First of all, I'm Irish. I was born cranky and suspicious. And I understand people's concern that we may be giving one more piece to MPA, but I will tell you, I've been really impressed with how far we've come. I've been really impressed with the questions when we put to Mike that he answers. We're not asking forever. We're asking for the remainder of this contract, because I think we are going in the right direction. We currently have 2 other positions open. We don't need to be looking for someone else. This is an important position. We need to get going now. Again, we're not asking forever, but we're trying to stabilize the nursing home both financially and in terms of human resources. I think it's the marketing person and social service we're still looking for. And boy, it'd be really nice to have one thing taken care of so then we can take our time to look at other things. And we talked about this the other night for a long time. So we realize that we're advisory to you, and we take that seriously. I understand you may not want to take this advice, but I want to tell you it was not done lightly. I did predict, I said, this is going to scare some people, and I understand that. But this isn't about selling off the nursing home. This is about survival. I do a book group at the nursing home every Tuesday night. If you read, come to the book group. I know what's going on there. It's a great place, as you were saying, great employees. So I would ask you, as the chair of the Champaign County Nursing Home Board, that you seriously consider this recommendation.
Mr. Mosier.
I've been on this board 17 and a half years, and that position over there has been a problem for as long as I've been here. I don't know how many people have been in and out of that position, and 10 years ago, we couldn't get a straight number on anything. And this is such an improvement that I just don't see why we don't go ahead and try it. And if it's going to save us $40,000, I'm going to vote for it.
A couple of questions for you, Mr. Scavato. Mr. John Bachman, is he an employee of your company or is he a contract employee?
Independent contractor. I've worked with him for 20 years.
Worked with him, do you mean in the same area you work in now?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. Let's go with Ms. Anderson.
I'm not sure if this is for you, Mike, or for Tony, but yeah, I think I've heard over the years getting the figures on time has been a problem. Maybe for some of us that aren't as strong in the financial area, you could explain really how you get the information to the auditor, or maybe
Okay.
vice versa.
All right.
Yeah.
What Tony was talking about this last time was that the revenues were late. And that's true. The revenues were late. MPA worked a little extra, and those revenues were submitted through our efforts. You've got a system that I think needs fixing. And we've had good discussions with the staff at the auditor. So we've got the county auditor's office that needs revenue figures in a certain way. That's their right as the auditor, and we have no problems with that at the nursing home. And the staff at the county auditor's group recognizes that in order for us to manage the nursing home, we need to have our revenues in a certain way. We can't manage using the revenue figures from the county auditor. And for example, if you are a Medicaid patient, the state pays a large portion of your monthly payment. But the resident also gets a liability there. The resident is also responsible, and usually it's in the form of Social Security. When we count revenues at the nursing home, we take the resident's payment of Social Security plus the state's payment, and we count that all as Medicaid. The county auditor, for its own reasons, which are valid, doesn't do it that way. It counts the Medicaid revenue only as the payment from the state, and it takes the resident's portion, and it includes that in receipts from others, like in private pay. So whatever the reason is, we've got two sets of books being kept, and it's extremely inefficient. And what we've suggested is that in this day of sophisticated software, and this is a basic software capability, we can enter the information once at the nursing home, design a software interface that sorts that data, both revenue and expense, into a form that is usable by the county auditor, and just transmit it over to them, and then audit the delivery of that data, rather than having to spend hours every month going through two sets of books, which is what's happening now. And my understanding is that this has been going on at the county long time, long before I even heard of Champaign. It's almost like a built-in inefficiency. It's fixable with a simple software fix, and it's economical. You can probably get the whole thing done for less than $10,000 and save yourself all sorts of angst. So a large part of the timeliness between the nursing home and the auditor is just because of the built-in delay that no one's been willing to address for years. And now, am I getting at your question?
Yeah, well,
okay.
I thought it might help if we understood.
Okay.
And you're saying that the person that's going to be handling this now can work this out.
Well, we're going to have to sit down with both groups and get the fix. I've talked to Carol Wadley several times, and she's in the middle of the audit right now. And this is something that I think would benefit both parties, both sides here. We're all on the same team.
Mr. Rosales.
Yeah, for clarification, it's not a political speech or political posturing. I ask the questions that I do ask for the listening audience that tonight came in and says, What is a consent agenda? What is a resolution? So the questions I ask are for those that are in tune to these meetings via the television, not for exactly for this board. I think all of us in this county have followed very closely the ordeals with the mold, with the management, and with the staff that's there. I think we all follow it, and we follow it very closely. But when we get an item on our agenda that the audience hasn't gotten word of, I think we need clarification for the audience's sake. So my questioning was basically, I've supported everything the MPA, the Mr. Escobar, and the advisory board. Everything that since I come on this board, I have voted for in support of the nursing home. I think we're in the right direction, but I think the people deserve a right to know what's going on. Thank you.
Mr. Richards.
Look, I agree with Mr. Scavato. We're all on the same team here, and I have no problem with the way MPA has been operating. And he operates on a business sense. But we're the county board. We do policy. That's what we do. We make policy. This is a policy. That is why it's on here. And either way we vote is completely legitimate. There is nothing wrong if people think this is something that MPA should be doing. There's also nothing wrong if people think that it's something that the county should be doing. But I am tired of hearing that policy is not what the county board does, that we need more and more commissions to do our jobs for us. I'm looking around. I don't see anybody here in diapers tonight. We are big boys. We need to do, and girls, we need to do our job.
Mr. James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Forgot I was going to be up. My question was, when we hired you, looking back, how big of a staff do you have right now?
Where?
In your office? That I thought when we hired the firm, and please correct me because my numbers sometimes get off, but wasn't there like 3 or 4 of you total?
No, we're up to 10. About, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this position that you're going to be taking on will be done by somebody you already have on staff?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not going to subcontract it out? Or?
Well, the person that we have is a subcontractor. Okay. He's been working with us for years.
Okay.
And there's several of them.
Well, my concern has always been, in the past when we even changed administrators at that nursing home, there was always this big to-do about time and being up because of the lag and not having anybody in place to take over if something happened, and that was my concern with your organization. And like I said, my memory must not serve me right because I did think at the time that you were very small in operation. But
well, we're small, but we've probably at least doubled in size since you and I last talked about that.
Okay.
So we have staffed up, but this capability was with the accounting is something that we've had for a while. We've just the light finally went on. There's a need for the service, and when we started working on it.
Thank you.
Further discussion, Ms. Cord.
Okay, I thought that you said you was going to have to do a search to find the right person to do this job, but just now you said that you've already been working with somebody over the years.
Do you want to clarify that?
I can clarify. My question to him was,
it wasn't your question.
Well, no, actually, I had asked him if we were going to hire a new controller for the position in Champaign County, how long would it take to find a new person if it stayed at the nursing home? That was the question, and that's what he said. It would take 6 months to replace the person who just left the nursing home. If somebody new.
So you're not talking about anybody new. You're just talking about replacing this person with somebody on your staff.
That's correct.
Further discussion. Thank you, Mr. James. I was planning on doing it myself. Is there an interest in a roll call vote on this?
Yes.
Okay, let's go for a roll call.
Mosier?
Yes.
Nudo?
Yes.
O'Connor?
Yes.
Richards?
No.
Rosales?
Yes.
Sapp?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Smucker?
No.
Wysocki?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Beckett?
Yes.
Benzel?
Yes.
Betts?
Yes.
Cowart?
No.
Denitz?
Yes.
Gladney?
No.
James?
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Knott,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Langenheim,
No.
McGinty,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Weibel.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Scavato. And moving on to standing committee reports, county facilities, Mr. Beckett.
Mr. Chair, we were waiting for information about the second chiller and an issue regarding hazardous materials, and I don't see, we have it here? Okay, this is item 2 on the purple one. So I move resolution number 7308.
Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt. Could you speak up, Steve? It's kind of
A
hard to
little
hear you
closer
back
to the
here,
mic,
please.
Mr. Beckett.
Please.
I am very soft-spoken. I will try.
Yes, we know. We're well aware of your reputation.
I move adoption of resolution number 7308, a resolution authorizing the award of contract to Reliable Mechanical Inc. for chiller installation project in the amount of $149,160, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Benzel. Discussion? Mr. Beckett, could you perhaps talk about this hazardous material? Was that?
Well, the delay in getting this to the board, and it wasn't, we had hoped to have it at the committee, but it was a question of resolving the issue of what, if any, additional costs there might be about the content of the second chiller if it had to be vacated, if it had to be cleaned out. That's been addressed, and so this resolution is still within the financial lines that we discussed when we first talked about this project.
Further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
I had been asked, and I'm going to ask Mr. Reinhardt before the next meeting, Mr. Chair, you asked me, when is the work at the courthouse going to start to finish that project? And they're looking for a number of consecutive days with temperatures, in a certain area so that they have a mean temperature. We think we're out of the woods as far as bad weather goes, but this is Illinois.
Okay, thank you. Finance, Mr. McGinty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I recommend adoption of resolution number 7289, purchases not following purchasing policy, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Beckett. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I recommend adoption of resolution number 7290, payment of claims authorization, and I so move.
Second.
So, second by Mr. Beckett. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I recommend adoption of resolution number 7288, a budget amendment for $16,998 to appropriate funds for the LRMP portion of the county planning contract to fiscal year 2010 that were not spent by the end of '09, and I so move.
Second by Ms. Cowart. Discussion. Mr. J.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we had heard earlier tonight that the LRMP is basically done, and we're waiting for adoption or partially or all together, however it comes to us. It seems to me that this is premature. We may not need that money if for some reason this doesn't go forward, and it would make a lot more sense to defer this until such time that we find out what's going to happen with this program. So with that said, I would move to defer.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Dunitz. Mr. Beckett.
This is what we're talking about is a resolution that does accounting, that doesn't spend the money. It moves it from last year where it's sitting laying and nothing can happen with it. I mean, we can't even close it out if we leave it last year. So the motion to defer makes, sorry, Mr. J, absolutely no sense. It's trying to take the substantive issue of an opposition to this project and mess up the way we keep track of our money. That just doesn't make any sense.
I actually like to ask our auditor, what effect would this have on our bookkeeping? Or Deb, you want to speak? Okay, go ahead, Deb.
This is budgeted last year, and the project, several areas of the project were delayed. For example, there were public hearings in January. there's an expense associated with those public hearings that were held. It was originally anticipated that those would be done in fiscal year 2009. We do not spend this money until an invoice is submitted by RPC consistent with the original contract, I will almost call it, agreement that we had with RPC to do this project. And this is still this just completes the project budget, which was a total of about $225,000 over a little over a 2-year period. So these are expenses, most of them have already been completed. I mean, most of them occurred in December, January, February, with the final stages and steps of the planning phases of the LRMP.
Actually, point of inquiry, Mr. J, when you say defer, you should, what does that mean? You have to actually give till a certain date or something like that. You can't just say defer indefinitely.
Well, before I state that, let me ask another question then. I didn't know this money was already spent. It appeared to me that it wasn't spent, and with the condition of our corporate fund, it seems like to me we shouldn't be spending money that we don't need to spend. And I don't think this is the place to debate the plan itself. This is talking about money, so I'm not going to get into that tonight. But I think there is some merit that this plan may not come through in its entirety.
But the county board approved the plan for developing the LRMP, and the county board approved the budget for implementing that plan, for all the steps necessary for going through with it. So this is something that you approved 2 years ago in terms of this was the expense that was associated with documenting and preparing this plan. And it has been adhered to very closely and matches the original budget that was approved by the board. So all this does is complete that budget as those activities are completed.
I guess I'm sorry to beleaguer this, but is in fact this money spent? Is it already obligated?
I would say probably most of it has been spent in the first quarter of this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. I withdraw that motion.
Is there any objection to Mr. J withdrawing the motion from the board? See none, we can consider it withdrawn. Back to the main motion. Further discussion. Mr. James.
Well, Jay, correct me if you're wrong, because that's some of the same questions I think we've batted around. I'm just going to touch briefly on it. When there's a pot of money still left over sitting there, and it does get confusing because all the numbers that are thrown at us at times, but and Deb, thank you very much for explaining that, but sometimes we look at that and we think, well, that agency or whoever it may be, whether it be a contractor or a good attorney like Mr. DeThorne, they look at that money and think, well, I can go ahead and do this much more service and take that because it was budgeted. And that's where I think Jay was coming, and we were just trying to get a clarification, which you did quite well. And I just wanted to, is that about it, Jay?
You did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. McGinty.
This is for both of the last comments and for anyone else. You know, Ms. Busey is always willing to answer questions before the meeting about the logistics of how this works. And it would solve some of these issues coming up at full board.
Further discussion. Mr. O'Connor.
I see nothing wrong with the issues coming up at full board, especially when we've got such a large audience.
Further discussion. Roll call.
Mosier.
No.
Nudo.
Yes.
O'Connor.
No.
Richards.
Yes.
Rosales.
Yes.
Sapp.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Smucker.
Yes.
Wysocki.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Beckett.
Yes.
Benzel.
Yes.
Betts.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Dennitz.
Yes.
Gladney.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Jay.
No.
Jones.
Yes.
Knott.
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Langenheim.
Yes.
McGinty.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Weibel.
Yes, motion carries.
That's all from finance. Thank you.
Moving on to Mr. Betts. You have two items.
I do, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to start with the appointment first because I think it may be a little easier to deal with. I move adoption of Resolution 7300, appointing Wayne Williams to the Champaign County Board of Review, and I so move.
Second by Mr. Mosier. Discussion. Mr. Nudo.
Yes, thank you. I placed before everybody some Board of Review totals. They are highlighted in some cases yellow or pink. And I wanted to allow for discussion on this. I took it off the consent agenda strictly for the ability to have a little more discussion. That we did not have it during the policy, and it was my fault for not listening closely to Mr. Betts's request for discussion. But upon investigation, I just want to make sure that all of us understand just exactly what we're doing with this particular nomination. I know Mr. Williams to a small degree. I think he's a very genteel person. He's got his accounting degree. I don't doubt that he can learn the job as it will present him. But I just want to make sure that in the future we look at nominations to have qualified people that can hit the ground running in today's world of these kinds of protests that are cropping up. If you go back to 2006, there were 982 tax requests for review. In 2007, there were 1473. In 2008, 1429. Last year, so far, 2,400. In speaking with Mr. Bantz, Mr. Jenkins, there's the potential for 3,500 this year. And rightly so, because the economy is going south. People are looking at current sales information. Of course, they don't understand it's a 3-year average that people look at in order to come up with how property taxes are assessed. I'm in the real estate business, and the key thing is this person has to hit the ground running. I don't, again, deny that Mr. Williams is going to be able to learn. He's got 3 months to get a crash course in this. But with no real estate background, not having a license, or no background in appraisals, no background in having ever owned a home or purchased a home, it's going to be a tough road. And I don't deny he can do it, but what I worry about, and I'm putting on notice, is the tax cycle. We don't want to jeopardize the tax cycle. I think we are one of 4 counties in the state that adheres to the tax cycle, has kept up with it. We're very fortunate. We have 2 part-time people and effectively now a trainee that needs to learn this job in a very quick cycle period. July, it really kicks in. And we have to have it done by certain time frames of getting it done. And I would suggest to both parties that instead of waiting for people to come to us for these kinds of job openings, for professionalism. For example, I've been on the Board of Realtors, Board of Directors for a number of years. I just got off. We have affiliates who are appraisers. I have the list here. There are 14 companies that are appraisers. I just spoke with Linda Green. Guess what? Sales are so far down, people are looking for these kinds of jobs. And I would suggest that we submit to the chair, both parties, take a look at some of these people who have qualifications that can hit the ground running and take a look at these things in a professional way quickly. The first time that the person who's in this job looking at a commercial real estate and the person says, well, I'm interested in a replacement cost rather than an income approach, you better know what that means. And so I just want to bring it up for discussion for future reference. As I said, I think Mr. Williams will do a fine job. It's going to take some time for him to learn it, and I hope he does well.
Mr. Betts.
I don't want to belabor a point, but this position was advertised in the community. I know Wayne Williams. He is one of the brightest young people I know in this community. He's talented. He took the test, passed the tests. He is capable. He's a quick study. I, quite frankly, agree with Mr. Nudo. The person's going to have to hit the ground running, and I think we have a candidate that can do that.
Also, I want to put on record here, I have a statement from the Illinois Department of Revenue that certifies that Wade and T. Williams did pass the statewide board of review examination, certification here. For further discussion, Ms. Anderson.
I guess that's the question. That was my understanding. He'd taken the class and passed.
That's correct.
If you are an appraiser, you have to take that test too, right?
Well, actually, you don't, but he is also a certified Illinois assessing officer.
Excuse me. There are two different tests. There's the assessment test, and then there's the appraiser test. Now, Wayne, I believe, took the assessment test, correct? And then there's the appraiser test, which is it's a much longer, much tougher test.
There are different levels. That's
much
correct.
different level, a totally different level. And I just would like everybody to understand that. And I agree with Mr. Betts. I'm sure I'm not bringing this up for purposes of voting against him. I'm saying there may be other ways. We advertise, but maybe we need to solicit where we can find. I mean, advertising in general is a big difference to that, and going to where we know sources are to go after good qualified people. And, you know, then each party can look and see their voting records if that matters, and decide if they vote, you know, if they're a Democrat or Republican. To me, it doesn't matter. But there are capable ways of finding good people in the future. That's my point.
I will also add the advertising period was actually probably twice as long as normal for this position. Mr. Langenheim?
I looking askance at the idea that the board itself should be soliciting nominees for a position that we're going to appoint. As individuals, we can urge people to apply, but I do not believe that the board as an entity should be engaged in that sort of an operation.
Mr. James, do you have a question?
I was just going to state that Al forgot to mention independents and Greens.
Thank you, Mr. James. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Welcome to the county government, Mr. Williams. Mr. Betts, please continue.
I move adoption of Resolution 7307 establishing the Champaign County Redistricting Commission for Election Redistricting based on the 2010 United States Census.
Second by Mr. Jones. Discussion. Mr. Beckett.
I just want to point out two things, and I ask unanimous consent that the resolution that's before you. Please.
Yep, speak closer to the mic.
There's something wrong with my mic. I don't understand this. All right. I want to point out two things, and I'm asking unanimous consent that the resolution that's in the packet.
Mr. Beckett, you say what page number you're on?
I'm on page 45, and I want you to look at paragraph 4, and on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7th line, where it says interest urban citizens, college and junior college students, labor. That's actually what Mr. Kurtz said. I confirmed it with him tonight, and that's the friendly amendment that Mr. Nudo and I had meant the other day, and we got into a dispute about that. So I'm asking unanimous consent.
You mean page 46?
Yeah, paragraph 4, page 46. So that. And
so
the
I'm
7th
sorry.
line where it says interests urban citizens, college and junior college students, labor. Because the language of the resolution said organized labor. This says labor. And so organized labor was changed to labor. That's what Mr. Kurtz suggested as the friendly amendment the other night. And
So you're saying is that it was the correct version should have organized it based on what came out of committee?
That's correct. And we have substituted the word labor. That's what Mr. Kurtz offered. Mr. Nudo and I accepted that because it was the word that Mr. Kurtz offered.
It's fine. It's just semantics. Labor is organized. Labor is labor.
Okay. The second item that I put in there based on a comment that Mr. Smucker, in paragraph 6, I added the phrase to adopt by majority vote. He asked a legitimate question about is there some super special vote. We had a discussion about.
So that's a clarification.
It's just a clarification. Both of those are just of that nature. Otherwise, it's exactly the same.
Does everybody understand that? Minor changes there? And everybody okay with that? Okay, further discussion. Mr. Kurtz.
Yeah, I have some qualms with some of this. As of our committee of the whole, I put a few amendments out and was voted down. I think we need to use past voting records as a guide to help us in the future. I was a little bit unhappy about the deviation and the mean deviation. Since the last map was done at 0 deviation, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that, but that was voted down as well. I also felt that the date of the commission should have fallen into the hands of the next board. But with all that said, I will vote for this measure. And I feel we need to have the transparency that and the openness of a voting election, so I will vote for this resolution.
Mr. Smucker.
Well, I'm not going to vote for this resolution. This resolution does not offer anything so the things that I've heard people talk about is things like public input, the availability to review the maps, transparency in the process, compact and contiguous districts, equal representation in size of districts. All of those things are covered by the current process. There's no gain at all. So I don't know what how people imagine this process goes on, that there really is some dark back room where a map is drawn and then it is simply thrust upon the public. But the truth is that the map is drawn by people elected by citizens of Champaign County. It is displayed on the website. It is discussed in public meetings, and then it is voted on by the people who are elected by the citizens of Champaign County. The process is wholly open and for public review, and so I don't understand the value added to this process. What I see going on essentially is that the board is going to abdicate its responsibility to this committee, and the committee, we're going to try to put together some balance of people from around the community to consciously sit down and draw a map. And I have there's just no, it's going to just be up to the people on that committee what the map ends up looking at like. And they're going to bring it forward to a vote, just like any other map would be brought forward to a vote. It doesn't make sense to me that that committee is going to bring its own biases, its own issues, and I think it end runs the right or the ability for elected representatives to do that. My personal feeling is that, the process we have now is the process. It's the democratic process. The citizens of Champaign County elect people to vote, to create and vote on a map, as well as elect people to do all the other things that we do here at the county government. And there may be people in this room who dislike the way the people in Champaign County are currently voting, and they think that this is a way to get around that issue. But the truth is that people are voting the way they are voting, and you can't. There's no way around it. You don't get to end run what the voters want. The irony of this situation is that we actually have very competitive districts. We've had incumbents unseated. We have very close races. The mover of this entire document is here on the board with us because he won an election that was razor thin. Ms. Wysocki is here on the board with us because she won a coin toss because the election was so close. I mean, we have very competitive districts. Now, they're not always Republican versus Democrat districts. My dear friend and colleague, Mr. Langenheim, almost lost to a Green 4 years ago. Well, by maybe 300 or 400 votes, right? So what I'm saying is, we have competitive districts. There are races that go on all the time. We have competitive districts as they are. There's nothing about the current map that doesn't meet the standards laid out by the state, or frankly, what's in the resolution. So I just don't understand why we think that this cobbled together committee is going to do a better job than having different members of this board come forward with different plans and having those discussed.
Mr. Mosier.
I've watched the last two maps, and they've been as gerrymandered as anything I ever laid eyes on. The Republicans drew one, and the Democrats drew one right to somebody's front door and changed the district they were in. And I want to tell you, I was in Florida for 3 months, and I talked to a lot of people from all over this country that are just totally amazed with politics in Illinois. How many governors have you sent to jail? Why are you the second bankrupt state in the country? And all I can say is we gerrymander and we flip coins and we end up in a mess. So I think we need to do something to help our image, and I think this is certainly something that could.
Mr. Gladney.
Yes, thank you. Some questions, I guess questions or in comments. On page 46, in the paragraph numbered 4, the last line of inclusion, or something to take note of, I guess, says that these commission members must have independence from any political party or political organization. I guess I don't quite know what does independence mean in this case? If Mr. Beckett, would you mind answering that?
Go ahead, Mr. Beckett.
That the chair, if he desires, in nominating someone, can look for someone who announces himself as a political independent or herself as a political independent, who has no party affiliation whatsoever. That one of the criteria that the chair could look at is to find someone who is avowedly independent and eschews party politics in any shape or form.
Go ahead, Mr. Gladney.
So, okay. I guess another question I had is, we've been told that this commission, while working on this project, would not be able to look at past voting history, voting data, et cetera, and that somehow this commission will then be able to give us a fair and competitive district, fair competitive map with fair competitive districts. I guess, and I might be slow, but I don't know how someone can tell if they've created a fair and competitive district if they've not been able to look at the voting data to know what they've created. So I guess that's another question I have. And I also just want to say in general, we've heard a lot about gerrymandering tonight and last week and et cetera, et cetera. I think that sells voters short. I don't know if I want to use the word insult, but to me it comes close. I think that, voters can surprise you. We've heard tonight and just a few minutes ago, when we've heard before, how Republicans gerrymandered the 1990 to 2000 county board map. And Democrats were brought pretty low during the 90s. They were brought down at one point to 6 members on this 27-member board. But in that same map, in 1998, Democrats made gains, and in 2000, Democrats such as Mr. Beckett here and Ms. Anderson were able to run on issues and strong campaigns, and the voters listened, and they turned this board from a Republican majority to a Democratic majority. Democrats drew a map, it was approved in 2001, and Democrats have held a majority on the board ever since. Now, like I said, I find it selling the voters short a little bit to say that the Democrats have been able to do that. through a gerrymandered map and not simply the will of the voters. That perhaps the voters have spoken every 2 years, and you can disagree or agree, but they've been fairly okay with the job the Democrats have been doing, so they put them back into office. I mean, you can elect Republicans in Massachusetts. You can elect Democrats or Republicans or even Greens here in Champaign County. I think voters are pretty smart. They're pretty educated. I think they know what they're doing. And I hate to sell them short by saying, we have to do something to make it easier for them. I think they know the score.
Mr. James.
Well, Matt's probably hitting the nail on the head a little bit, but I would just say, too, that I don't know. I don't get on the internet a lot, but I bet if I was on that commission and I wanted to look up voter, how they vote and what they do, I could do so at home in the evening if I really was concerned about that. I think what the intention here is, and I'm hoping for this, change is always hard. It's hard to swallow. Let's face it, as I've said before, people really don't trust the politicians that much anymore. So let's give it a chance. Let's see what happens. We still have that tool that if we don't like the map, it'll go back to the way it was done before at the end if we don't approve one. It's just a change. It's something we need to look at. I think it's good for the public to have a say-so in it. I wish there was a better way, but it was pointed out to me by Mr. Betts, even if we had a computer do it, that computer could be somehow rigged to do what the other party wants it to do or our party wants it to do. So I say let's give it a chance. Let's look at it. I think the people support it. I haven't been in Florida, but I've been in Rantoul and Ludlow, and they love it.
Maybe you should try getting out of state, Mr. James. Mr. Richards.
I don't want to belabor this too much because even though I'm going to vote against it, I feel that probably there are people on both sides of this issue with good intentions trying to do it for the best of the county. In fact, I applaud Mr. Kurtz for voting the way he thinks his district wants instead of the way his county chair wants. However, I just want to leave everyone with a warning. Baudelaire said the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to persuade the world he didn't exist. Beware he or she who says he's going to take the politics out of politics. 6 months or a year, you may think we're changing some things. You can't take politics out of politics.
Mr. Betts.
I want to have some fairly extended comments because I chaired the meeting when we passed this the other night, and as chair, I didn't directly address the issues. I thank Steve Beckett for doing this. I don't agree with it, but I thank him for doing it, and I know it's going to pass. And my wife is very happy because the last time around, I conducted 11 hearings. I gave up my summer vacation and a trip to Europe to conduct those hearings. So she is really happy that this is going to go through. And it was painful. Anyone who thinks that it is easy, and I'm a partisan, I am the one person I think on this board that will admit I am a partisan. I am a partisan Democrat. It is in my soul. I was born a Democrat. My parents are Democrats. My grandparents are Democrats. I believe in the Democratic Party. I believe it's the hope of this country. It is in my blood. I'm a partisan. I admit it. I drew a map, worked with Democrats, and that is like herding cats to try to draw a map. It was very, very difficult. I worked with Republicans as well. There are people in this room that I worked with. I remember sitting down with Gary Grace, who was then the head of the Farm Bureau, when the process got started. And Gary and I never agreed on anything. We're politically opposite. Gary came to me and said, I want an unincorporated rural district. And I sat down with Gary and I said, Gary, you don't have the population to do an unincorporated rural district in Champaign County outside of the 1.5 mile limits of the Twin Cities. Showed him the data. He said, you're right. I want the best representation I can get. He wanted Republicans, and I respected that. And there were 4 Republican seats drawn. Most people on this board know that I strongly favored a suburban district because I think that's where the real growth pattern was 10 years ago, and I think that's where the growth pattern is right now, within that 1.5 mile limit. I gave up that position because my own party and the Republicans certainly weren't going to support it. Mr. Grace was very happy that that position was given up because he knows that having that suburban district would have led to 3 Republicans being elected, but they would not have been the traditional type of Republicans. It would have changed the character of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. That aspect of the reapportionment last time around, I actually regret that I gave in on that particular point, but politics is the art of the practical and the art of the possible. So we did what was possible. Did we draw lines to favor the election of Democrats? Absolutely. Did we do it to favor the election of Republicans outside of Champaign-Urbana? Absolutely. I don't pretend that that wasn't done. It was done. People can say that they were sickened by it and disgusted by it. I recognize that that's the nature of politics. Districts are gerrymandered. If you are the losing side, it's a gerrymandered district. If you win, it's a fair and even district. That's the nature of political posturing. And that's okay. We are in that particular business. I don't think politics is a bad idea. I don't think it's an evil idea. I think it occurs. My mother, who was a very politically active person, always said the only way you can eliminate politics is there can be only one person left on earth, and that person better not hear voices. That is the only way you do it. Politics is going to be a part of this. I think this is a fascinating experiment that we're going to engage in, because this first part seems like the political part, where we're going to adopt the resolution. That's not the political part. The political part is who gets appointed to this commission, and that is going to be a fight on every single one of those appointments, because they're all going to be people who have a political background. We might be able to find that one person out there that is truly an absolute independent. It'll be fascinating to find them. But most people are political. Quite frankly, most people who have, we're going to have 2 county board members from each party. Quite frankly, the 2 county board members will be able to look at a map without ever running backgrounds or anything else in terms of the data for precincts, and we'll be able to tell whether it's a Democratic or Republican map. Every single precinct outside of Champaign-Urbana is a Republican precinct. You cannot draw a Democratic district that is a rural district outside of Champaign-Urbana. It cannot be done. If you follow this doctrine strictly, Cunningham Township will be entitled to 2 representatives. You can draw Cunningham Township any way you like. It will be Democratic. It is overwhelmingly Democratic. This is not about my personal self-interest. I was joking with a Republican. I said, I live in Cunningham 9. You can draw my district any direction you want. It's still Democratic. You can draw it north, south, east, west in a circle. It's still Democratic. There are just a lot of Democrats in my area. I think it's going to be a fascinating process as we watch this unfold, because I think people are going to be keenly aware of what they're doing with regard to precincts. Someone is going to sit down with the computer, because that's how maps are drawn, and they are going to look at census data in relationship to precincts. And it's not going to be like, gee, we're going to have a blank circle for the precinct. It's not going to have a number on it. We're going to have a number on it. Immediately, people, since this is going to be an open process, there are going to be people staying there that say, well, we know Cunningham 9 is Democratic. We know if we connect it with 10 and 7 and 8, you've got an overwhelmingly Democratic district. Go any direction you want. So I think we should be careful about the idea of this truly being nonpartisan. It would be a beautiful world if it was, but the fight over this issue has only just begun in terms of the appointment process. I don't envy what the chair is going to have to go through to find folks. I know that many of the organizations that support this lobby this county board all the time. They have big axes to grind. In holding the hearings the last time around, I remember we held them at the Farm Bureau, and by the way, the Farm Bureau, I thought, did the single best job, and still does, of lobbying the county board. They do their homework. they talk to the people, and they talk to the members. That's what you're supposed to do. And they were at every single hearing when we did the redistricting the last time. They did not let down their effort. They did what you're supposed to do when you're a lobbying group, and I never object to that. And they never threatened anyone. They never said, if you don't vote for blah, blah, they never did. I can't say that that is true of the Chamber of Commerce, because they do and did, very directly to my face, told me the thing that was wrong with the map, this was a member, was it let me continue to hold office. You know, that's, so do I trust the Chamber of Commerce to be on this committee? I certainly don't, or their representatives. They have an axe to grind because Mr. O'Connor and myself over the years voted against funding their little pet projects every time they came to the board. This is probably 12 years ago. So they have a few axes to grind, and I hope they're over some of them. But we do have a problem of partisanship in the community, but I don't think partisanship is necessarily the worst thing. Are competitive districts better than non-competitive districts? You know, we always automatically assume competition means you have better candidates and better results. I know that political scientists will tell you that competitive districts actually lead to timid representation. The people who are in highly competitive races never take a stand on anything because they're afraid of being defeated. That is part of the problem we have in Washington. Everyone says it's too partisan. The problem is that the so-called blue dog Democrats are in competitive districts. They're not conservative. They're in competitive districts, and that's why they won't take a stand on anything. And that's true in the Illinois state legislature. That's why nothing is really happening to solve the budget crisis in terms of taxes or anything else, is there's 8 or 9 Democrats and 4 or 5 Republicans in very competitive districts, and neither party wants to sacrifice them. So be careful in saying we want competitive districts. One, you can't do it without looking at the data, and 2, it doesn't guarantee you get better candidates. That's up to voters. Voters have that choice, and they exercise it. They know how to throw people out. Democrats may very well get thrown out of power in 2010, and that's fine. That's the will of the voters if they do. Republicans may lose seats. We don't know. None of us know what's going to happen. I know that there's only 5 people on this board that are here from the time I took office, and that's Mr. O'Connor, Ms. Cowart, and Mr. Carter, and Mr. Mosher. There's 5. So there's been a massive turnover on this board. There has been numerous members of both parties, and people lose elections. People leave office. County government is imperfect. It was imperfect under Republicans. It's imperfect under Democrats. This is a nice attempt. It's very good public relations. I hope it turns out to be more than good public relations, but let's not kid ourselves that politics is out of this picture, because this is going to be very political.
Langenheim.
We're going to have, say that this plan goes in, we're going to have an election. One party or the other will have a majority on that board. They will elect the board chairman, who will be a member of their party, whom all of them, a majority of them, are willing to follow. That man will appoint all of these public representatives. So, what does he do?
Point of correction, actually, it will occur in November.
What?
It will occur in November, but before the new board takes place. It will be this board. I guess I'm the fortunate person who gets to appoint those people. The appointments will take place by this board.
This board's going to
This
appoint
board,
that?
according to the resolution, this board will appoint the commission. I will nominate them.
Forget
Before we go any further, I want to point out there's on page 46, number 5, paragraph, the last sentence on its own is very restrictive. As far as who can be appointed chair, it basically says that only an independent can be a chair. Is that the way we want it to be? No, it doesn't say that. The question I have is that intended to be that the board shall not be a county board member.
That's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be county board member.
So
Put a comma, who is a county board member.
That's fine.
why don't we have a quick motion on that, Mr. Beckett?
Well, it's Mr. Betts and I. If you want to add that, I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Repeat that so we
So
can
the
hear.
last sentence on page 46, paragraph 5, we'll read the chair shall not, how'd that go, Tom? Why don't you read it, what you had, Tom?
I just put, the chair shall not be a majority or minority member of the redistricting commission who is a county board member.
Okay, adding who is a county board member at the end of the sentence. So basically, the county board members on the commission cannot be the chair. Pardon?
The chair chooses the commission.
Chair of
The chair of the
Well,
county board.
yeah, so we're talking about the commission. Okay. Further discussion? Let's have a roll call vote, I think might be a good idea.
Mosier?
Yes, I
Nudo? O'Connor?
No.
Richards?
No.
Rosales?
Yes.
Sapp?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Smucker?
No.
Wysocki?
Yes.
Anderson?
No.
Beckett?
Yes.
Benzel?
Yes.
Betts?
No.
Cowart?
No.
Denitz?
Yes.
Gladney?
No.
James?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Knott?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes.
Langenheim?
No.
McGinty?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Weibel?
No, motion carries.
Nothing further from, do we have something? from the-
Actually,
Oh, the closed
okay,
session.
well, the next items are closed sessions. Right, we just have closed sessions left, right? Right. Let's take a 1-minute break or 2-minute break, because it looks like it's going to happen anyway, so let's make it official. Okay, who has the, do you have them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? I think we still have a quorum here. Mr. Betts, would you move the motion you have in front of you?
I think you better call the meeting back to order.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting back to order so we can proceed. Closed session.
I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 122, Parent C1, to consider the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of Champaign County. I further move that the following individuals remain present: Mike Scavato, he said it, County's legal counsels, county administrator, recording secretary, someone with handwriting.
HR general.
HR generalist. So moved.
Second by Ms. Masaki. Roll call, please.
Mosier? Nudo?
Yes.
O'Connor? Richards?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Richards.
Rosales?
Not here.
Sapp? Schrader?
Yes.
Smucker?
Yeah.
Wysocki?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Beckett?
Yes.
Benzel? Betts?
Yeah.
Cowart? Denitz?
Yes.
Gladney?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Knott? Kurtz?
Yes.
Langenheim?
Yeah.
McGinty?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Weibel?
Yes, Mr. Rosales is here also.
Yes.
He votes yes. It's unanimous. We're in closed session.